Our program will begin first with a prayer from the Secretary of Tourism Industry Board Foundation, Ms. Tinette Capistrano.
Lord, we praise you for this webinar and your purpose for it. We know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. We love you for that, Lord, that even when we have done what you have asked, the results are so much greater than we could ever have imagined. Even in failed attempts, your faithfulness continues to provide what we need. Our prayer today is that your will be done through this event. Take what we have prepared and multiply our efforts as only you can. Steer our intentions to align with your righteous will. Remind us of your faithful provision when our efforts fail us or fall short. May all glory go up to you when we reach the finish line and climb over benchmarks. Blanket us with your peace today, Father. Keep us physically safe and guard our hearts and minds from pride and selfishness. Keep love at the forefront of our minds today and the guiding light for all we set out to accomplish and celebrate. In Jesus' name, Amen.
For the welcome remarks, let us welcome the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puya. For the welcome remarks, let us welcome the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puya. For the welcome remarks, let us welcome the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puya.
Magandang araw sa lahat ng ating participants. I am pleased to welcome you today to our webinar on Remote Virtual Online F2F Practicum. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the officers and members of the Tourism Industry Board Foundation, TIBFI, headed by Chairperson Ms. Maria Cristina Aquino, and my colleagues from the Department of Tourism, Undersecretary Art Bongcato, Assistant Secretary Rica Bueno, and Director Weng Montecillo, for making this webinar possible. Our resource speakers today are ASIC Rica Bueno from the Department of Tourism, Ms. Monina Bucat, Practicum Chair, UP Asian Institute of Tourism, UPAIT, Ms. Eileen Clemente, President of Raja Travel Corporation, and Ms. Divine de los Reyes, Group Director, Mega World Hotels, Academe. On the panel, we also have Attorney Eugene Yap, President of HRAP, Hotel and Restaurants Association of the Philippines, Ms. Georgie Ilagan Bian, President Council of Hotel and Restaurant Educators of the Philippines, Mr. Ben Hor Ong, Chairperson, CHED Technical Committee on Tourism and Hospitality Management, and Ms. Andrea Acorda, National President, Junior Tourism and Hospitality Management Association of the Philippines. Thank you all for sharing your expertise with us today. Those of you who are here with us are involved in the tourism industry as managers and owners of accommodation facilities, tour operators, MICE facilities, and restaurant and hospitality establishments. We also have participants from hospitality and training institutions, as well as educators and students. You may have been affected by the indefinite closure of schools, universities, and other education facilities, but this does not mean that the learning stops. Indeed, the demand for online education has only increased in the past several months, and the DOT has been holding webinars such as these to maintain and increase the skills and marketability of our tourism workers. For the time being, face-to-face classes and practicum remain suspended by CHED, Commission on Higher Education. This has, of course, impacted our students from the tourism and hospitality sector who are in need of practicum placements, especially for graduating students. Many schools and educational institutions have converted their curriculum to blended learning programs, including online courses and modules. As it is still uncertain when the pandemic will end, we shall continue to hold courses online, remotely, or virtually, and expect to do so until possible or when it is deemed to safe return to face-to-face modalities. This webinar will share practicum programs initiated by the government, in industry, and the academe, providing a reminder on the competencies aligned with the ASEAN Common Competency Standards for tourism professionals. It will also showcase innovative practices introduced by pioneer tourism enterprises and industries like Raja Travel Corporation and Mega World, and schools like UPAIT on remote, virtual, and online practicum programs. The Department of Tourism has developed OJT manuals that can now be converted and suited to online platforms. This program underscores the importance of collaboration between the government, our private stakeholders, and academe to create innovative practicum options. The pandemic has caused massive disruption to almost all sectors, but it has also spurred creativity and innovation, opening many opportunities to those who embrace and adapt to the future of education and training. I wish you a very productive session today and hope that you leave inspired by what you can achieve through virtual learning. We will come out of this crisis stronger, smarter, and better prepared for the world to come. Together, we will recover as one. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our host for this morning's event, the Dean of the College of International Tourism and Hospitality Management of Lyceum of the Philippines, Manila, Dr. Lilibet C. Aragon.
Good morning and welcome to our webinar entitled It's Okay Not to Be Okay, Remote, Virtual, Online, and Face-to-Face Practicum. A lot of our participants would connect it with the K-drama that finished very recently. But this webinar is about practicum and internship. This session is presented to you by the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated in cooperation and partnership with the Department of Tourism and Technical Education Skills Development Authority, or TESDA. For this morning, we have with us virtually an extremely diverse audience and participants coming from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, from the Philippines, and from other parts of the world. Let's see our registration profile, please. Okay, so we've clustered our participants who registered via Zoom. In terms of registration by time, most of our participants registered between 8 to 9 a.m. We have at least almost 11%, and then the rest are followed by timings between 9 to 10 and 11 to 12 noon. Next, please. According to registration by date, most of our participants registered last August 11, and this was followed by set of participants who registered in the coming dates. The last one would be August 4. We've extended our registration to 2 weeks, and so I think now we have more participants in the different channels like FB and YouTube. Generally speaking, we have the most number of participants who registered last August 11 between 8 to 9 a.m. According to industry, of course, we have the most number of participants coming from the Academe at almost 65%, followed by the industry of hospitality, travel, and tourism at 25%. We also would like to break down our participants from the education sector. We have the most number of participants from the Commission on Higher Education at almost 47%. So this is both for private and public institutions. We also have to acknowledge our participants from TESDA and the Department of Education. For our industry participants, most of our participants came from the travel and tour sectors at 19%, followed by hotel and accommodation sectors. We also have participants from the F&B and the MICE sectors. For the government, majority of our participants is from CHED and of course local government unit and TESDA. By country, of course, we have the most number of participants from the Philippines at almost 94%. We also have participants from the United States, China, Thailand, and Taiwan. By region, we have the most number of participants coming from the National Capital Region at almost 37%, followed by Calabarzon and Central Luzon region. As to TIBFI membership, most of our registrants are not yet members of the association, and so later on, we will give directions on how you can become individual and institutional members. To optimize our webinar experience, we have this short briefing. All participants are requested to put their cell phones in silent mode to reduce interruptions in concentration. Microphones will be turned off for all the participants. We also encourage everyone to actively participate by putting their comments in the chat comment box or asking questions that you would like to raise. We have our technical team monitoring our streaming via FB through TIBFI site and also the DOT Trains website. Please be reminded that only those who stay at least 80% of the session will be given e-certificates. No videos will be turned on for all the participants except for speakers, and video will be turned on only at the end of the photo opportunity. And of course, we would like to award our most engaged participant. If you can recall, last July 27, we had our first webinar series. It's entitled Glimmer of Hope for Tourism and Hospitality Professionals. And of course, we've chosen the most engaged participant. So I think the criteria here is when they ask questions, give comments. And of course, we would like to announce the winner who will be receiving this fabulous prizes coming from TIBFI and Department of Tourism. And the winner for our most engaged participant for last session is Mr. Lux Junel Mendoza. Congratulations, Sir Lux. and you will be receiving this prizes very soon. All right. I think we're now ready to introduce our panel of speakers. But before that, let me introduce first, of course, the association sponsoring this webinar. We have the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated Chairman who will give us the overview and the beginnings of the association. Please help me welcome on the virtual stage the Chairman, Ms. Maria Cristina G. Aquino. Ma'am Tina?
Yes, good morning, everyone. As mentioned by Beth, majority of our participants or viewers are not members of the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated. And so let me just give you an overview of what TIBFI is all about, so that maybe in the perchance that you may want to become a member, this is the opportunity for you now. We started in 1980, a good 40 years back, when it was known as Hotel and Resort Industry Board. And it was limited to only members of hotel and restaurant. Because of the limitation in its membership, it was expanded to what is now called the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated in 1991, so that we can now include more sectors, more coverage to all members of the tourism industry. This application was approved by the SEC in 1992. And we're very happy to share that we are the only surviving industry board all the way from the NMYC days to now what is known as TESDA. As part of TIBFI's history, we actually created an opportunity for us to review our vision and mission in 2018 through the help of the Bayan Academy, who had a grant from the JP Morgan. We revised our vision now to read as follows: we envision highly professional education, training, research, and development institutions that are responsive to the competency needs and workforce requirements of the tourism industry in 2025. A significant change this year would be, actually in the last few years, would be the introduction of the ASEAN MRA on tourism professionals, which is going to be something that's going to be discussed as well by ASECRICA. Our mission is to converge government, industry, education, and training sectors in facilitating tourism human resource development. To realize this mission, we have set out two broad objectives: to help develop an adequate supply of competent tourism professionals. And part of the webinar series is actually to do continuous learning for our tourism professionals. And second, to ensure that education, training, research, and development institutions meet local and international standards to match the needs of tourism professionals in the industry. Last April, a new board was actually set in place. We were luckily sworn into office by Secretary Berna. And so this is the new board that's going to be in place, serving all the members from 2019 to 2021. The new board actually has association members from different organizations that are all tourism related. We have from HRAP, from ARM, Paseos, ARME, Urain Centro, PTAA, and Filtoa. As part of our membership, as part of our advisory board, we have the Department of Tourism, TESDA, and the UPAIT. A significant role that TIBFI is going to play in the ASEAN MRA is to be the National Tourism Professional Board, as indicated on screen, alongside with two other agencies. The National Tourism Organization in Philippines, this is going to be represented by the Department of Tourism. And for the Tourism Professional Certification Board, this is going to be represented by TESTA. The three of us actually work together to make sure that we are able to implement the ASEAN MRA alongside with the other ASEAN member states. And so this is a huge task that is given to all of us. So we have collaborations among these various organizations. The TIBFI composition is made up of private organizations. They can be associate members, or this is associations. We also have institutional membership, and we also have individual members. The second component would be government, and these are represented by our board of advisors, the DOT, TESDA, and UPAIT. Labor, which is most affected right now because of the COVID pandemic, is now represented also by Nurain Centro. Some of our members would be found in the following slides. We have our associate members. We have our Next slides. We have our institutional members. So these are schools or organizations. And then we also have some individual members. If you're interested to become a member, we have a QR code that is found on screen, or you can actually also go to the link that's going to bring you to our website, and you will have the different types of memberships as well as the benefits. I hope to see more of you in the succeeding webinars that we're going to be having, as well as an increase in our membership. Thank you very much. Back to you, Beth.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Tina, for that overview and beginnings about TIBFI. And so we encourage our participants to become a member. And of course, we need to be updated whether we belong to the academe, industry, or government. This is our time to collaborate. Okay? Thank you, Ma'am Tina. The COVID-19 pandemic has prompted the government to stop the holding of face-to-face classes and, for the time being, the suspension of practicum or internship. This webinar aims to share practicum programs initiated by the government, industry, and academe, providing a reminder on competencies aligned with the ASEAN Common Competency Standards for tourism professionals. It also aims to showcase innovative practices introduced by pioneer tourism enterprises in schools on remote, virtual, and online practicum programs. We have invited 4 panel of speakers representing the government, the industry, and academe. And for this very interesting topic, we have with us this morning 4 reactors representing an industry professional organization, a professional organization for the Academe, and Technical Committee for Tourism and Hospitality, and of course, from a national student organization representative. I think now we're ready to introduce our panel of speakers. Our first speaker for this morning finished her Bachelor of Science in Tourism degree from the UP Asian Institute of Tourism. She also finished her degree in Masters in Urban and Regional Planning and Development in the same university, and another Master in Development Planning from the University of Queensland, Australia. She has served the Department of Tourism for 30 years in various capacities and offices, including the Office of Product Research and Development, International Promotions for Asia-Pacific Market, and Regional Operations and Tourism Services. She currently serves as the Assistant Secretary for the Tourism Regulation, Coordination, and Resource Generation of the Department of Tourism. And she will discuss for us this morning the on-the-job training manuals as proposed by the department. Please welcome Honorable Assistant Secretary Maria Rica Bueno.
Thank you, Dean Beth. Thank you also, and good morning to our partners in the Tourism Industry Board Foundation, my co-speakers and panelists this morning, and as well as our webinar participants and viewers. I am happy to be with you this morning to share an initiative of the Department of Tourism on a resource material which was developed by DOT to contribute to the education sector and the tourism private sector, which is aimed at really helping enhance the OJT program in the country and in the overall improving the quality of our tourism and hospitality training and education in the country. I call this industry immersion manuals because it's not only an OJT manual that we have developed, but also something also for the teachers. So next, please. Next, please. Okay, just as a backgrounder on how the DOT developed these manuals, in 2014, the DOT received a technical assistance from the Asian Development Bank with funding from the Government of Canada for a grant in improving competitiveness of the Philippines as a tourism destination. This technical assistance has 3 components. One is the regulatory impact assessment. This system is already in place within the Department of Tourism and all other government agencies. It's a tool wherein for every policy or regulation that a government would issue, it goes through this system to really determine the impact of a particular policy before it's being issued. So we have this in place already. The second component of the technical assistance is hotel and resorts quality assurance and accreditation system, which really provided for the validation of what the Department of Tourism has put in place in 2012, which is the National Accommodation Standards for Hotels, Resorts, and Apartment Hotels. And really, after the validation by our international third-party assessors, they provided inputs and comments on how to improve on these standards. And lastly, the third component of this technical assistance is the skills development and human resource, which had an important component, which is the pilot implementation of an industry skills development program. Next, please. So under component 3 on skills development, there were 4 major outputs or deliverables. And this is the industry skills grants scheme that I mentioned earlier, wherein 49 private sector tourism enterprises has received financial assistance for the training of their employees. And the second output is the tourism skills survey. And third, we also had a human resource development strategy and action plan for the Philippines. This is the first time that the DOT had this. And lastly, inputs to updating and developing the tourism and hospitality curriculum in the country. As this is a 3-year program, next slide, please. One of the activities that the Department of Tourism organized and conducted was a benchmarking activity in Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore, really to have a global perspective on how hospitality and tourism education and training is being implemented in this country. So these are the findings that the team gathered. By the way, the team was composed of representatives from the CHED, from Tourism Industry Board Foundation, from TESDA, and of course from our department. So in terms of education and training, we gathered that all countries except for Thailand has been offering a 2-year tourism diploma course. Thailand, they have a certificate program, which is for 3 years, and their diploma program would still need an additional of 2 years before you will get that tourism diploma. The diploma course will also allow a particular student to also move to a higher education course program. And in Cambodia, at the time that we visited the country, because we held the benchmarking activity one in December of 2014 and another benchmarking activity in February of 2015. So in Cambodia, at the time we visited them, they had just implemented and developed their qualification standards for tourism and hospitality. During this period, the ASEAN member countries, the 10 ASEAN member countries, were in the process of implementing and adopting the ASEAN Mutual Recognition Arrangement for tourism professionals as our minimum standards, for tourism and hospitality education in the region. So Cambodia adopted en toto the ASEAN Common Competency Standards for tourism professionals. So they did not really, because in the Philippines, we have TESDA as our tourism professional certification board. We have an existing qualifications framework for tourism and hospitality, and we need to do a lot of alignment with the ASEAN standards. But Cambodia, it's quite easier for them because they adopted the ACC, STP, and TOTO. Malaysia, its tourism curriculum is also compliant with their Malaysian qualification framework, following their national occupational skill standards. Next slide, please. Next, please. For the practicum, here we also look at how the countries are implementing the OJT program or internship program. So we found out that except for the Philippines, the minimum internship period or practicum hours for students of tourism and hospitality is 6 months. In Singapore, in Malaysia, in Cambodia, And in Thailand actually has a 1-year apprenticeship. But the Philippines, for for our practicum hours would have an average of 600 hours. So the other countries also accepts foreign students as practicumers. So they have foreign OJTs in their private host training establishments. The if you notice on the slide, except for the Philippines again, the host training establishments are paying the practicum students. They're providing allowances or some form of remuneration or fees, no, for the OJTs. But in the Philippines, sometimes it's the students, unfortunately, and this is such a pity that some students are paying for their practicum placement in hotels. We hope that this practice, will be changed, in the coming years. And most of the time, the establishments, do not give allowance to their interns or practicums. I believe what the establishments are giving our OJTs or practicumers are really the meals, free meals that when they are in the establishments on duty. Next slide, please. So we also found out that these countries are into, other initiatives and programs. Singapore, the Singapore government is encouraging their educational institutions to develop new programs needed by the industry. And one example is, we were surprised to hear a Bachelor on Hospitality and Facilities Management, which has embedded a National Fire Safety and Building Construction Safety certification. So here, a student of this course is not only taught with the software, knowledge in hotel operations, but also the hardware. So yung mga engineering aspects of, hotel operation, and that would fall under the facilities management session or topics, during the course program. For Malaysia, instructors are all required to complete the vocational trainer officers program. Thailand, the Bureau of Vocational Education has a program for us 30-day summer industry immersion. And for the Philippines, during that time, and this is 2014, 2015, we were reviewing and aligning the ASEAN, the ACC STP into the training regulations of TESDA and also the PSG for tourism and hospitality education in the CHED. But moving forward to this date, all of these are already done by this time. And we believe whatever learnings that we gathered from those benchmarking were inputted, in the development and updating of the training regulations and the curriculum. So our consultants also, in the course of their assessment of the OJT program in the country, revealed these issues and concerns. So for school-related issues and concerns, they say that the feedback that were gathered is that OJT program often are not well planned. The requirements of the educational institutions really vary from one another. There is lack or weak monitoring. Perhaps this is a result of the lack of manpower as well in educational institutions. The duration of the OJT program also varies. And oftentimes, practicum is deemed or looked at as merely as a compliance to complete your degree, but it's not considered as an integral or an important part of a student's, learning. On the other hand, the issues and concerns at the enterprise level reveal that the approach to learning is not systematic. Again, the type of the experiences offered by these establishments also varied. Of course, depending if wherever the practicum student would be placed or deployed. If in a big hotel chain, of course, it's different in if a smaller or medium-sized property. And then an employer requirements are unclear, And most of the time, this one I think is very common. Most of the time, our OJTs and practicum students were given menial tasks and assignments. And just to relate to you my personal experience when I'm a graduate of tourism course. Program in UPAIT, and I took my practicum in a travel agency. And I have very good memories of my practicum. I learned a lot, but there's yung menial task na sinasabi nila during there was a secretary's day, secretaries of executives, and our agency bought a lot of roses. And then we were tasked. There were three of us in the travel agency, and we were asked to like arrange it, and so that we can deliver them to the partners of that travel agency as a token, of goodwill, remembering them on Secretary's Day. And then, but while doing that, we were in a happy mood as well, because it's like a break from the administrative tasks, of course, all related to arranging travel itineraries, booking flights of our customers. But yes, I think that's the menial thing that I could remember when I was a practicum student in a travel agency in Makati. Okay, so moving forward, can I have the next slide, please? And so, having realized all these issues and concerns, we were just very, happy that through the technical assistance, or under the ADBC, the project, we were able to produce this OJT training manuals for the 4 labor divisions, and that is front office, housekeeping, food and beverage, and professional cookery or food production. Next, please. If you are, maybe perhaps most of you would have attended our orientation on the ASEAN MRA Toolbox. This is similar, wherein the manual would provide the educational institution, the student, and even the host establishment with almost everything. This would have checklists, pre-OJT checklists, technical skills checklists, systems and procedures checklists, and down the line, even, a work and learning plan, a roster, a weekly learning lab. So it's like a hassle-free resource material. If you don't have an OJT program yet, next slide, please. Templates are provided and included in this manual. So ayan, makikita nyo, there are forms and worksheets that are really easy to fill out. Next slide, please. These are actually meant for those that would have, their resources in place already. These are meant to supplement to whatever you have, because you can actually customize this manual according to your needs and standards of the schools, standards and requirements of the host training establishment, and especially, of course, the needs of our students and practicumers. So lahat yan nandyan, provided for in the manual. And these manuals, next please, comes with implementing guidelines that would really provide a guide for the schools, the students, and the establishments on their roles and responsibilities, and how to plan, organize, and implement an OJT program. So kasama din yan siya. And then similarly, we have a teacher's immersion program, because one of the findings also of our director of the Office of Tourism Standards and Regulation, which in 2010 also handles the manpower and programs of the Department of Tourism. I have been hearing perennial concerns and problems from the academe and in the industry, the mismatch of our graduates, that we're not really producing graduates that would fill up or be responsive to the needs of the industry, and then that our teachers also lack, most of our teachers lack the industry experience. So the Back to Industry Immersion manual is also aimed at contributing in that regard. Similar to the OJT manual, there are also templates and checklists that would guide a prospective faculty, who's going to undertake an industry immersion. Next slide, please. So these manuals are really envisioned and designed to provide guidance on the roles of the students, teachers, and the host establishments. Throughout the phase of the OJT program, the pre-planning, of course, the actual implementation, and even the post and monitoring and assessment of a particular OJT activity or program. It likewise supports guidelines with easy to follow documents, and it allows for flexibility. It's not rigid or overly prescriptive. Sinasabi nga natin, a school or an establishment can customize. This can just be a reference. Will supplement whatever you have. Or kung wala naman kayo ngayon in place, you can actually, adapt it also. It also teaches best practices and methods. And it generates awareness and communications, because awareness in terms of knowing the progress of our students on how they are doing during their practicum period. The different templates that are provided for in that manual would allow the OJT coordinator or the teacher or even the establishment to know if the student is really, gaining the necessary to acquire during their practicum period or their OJTs. And then lastly, this would also promote a systematic approach to, implementing our practicum or OJT programs. Next slide. Next, please. Now, the Department of Tourism since 2018, because we want really that the academic community and, of course, through CHED and TESDA, and hopefully, if this is also useful to our DepEd teachers, we would be happy to share this with them. We have been doing orientations on the OJT manual, and in 2018, we had oriented 103 schools and 122 hotels, not hospitals, pandemic kasi, hotels, I mean. And we continue to do this. We want to strengthen this. And we also had a partnership with RMA in the printing of 5,000 manuals. And these were distributed to the members of RMA. And we have been working with CHED, as I have said, in advocating if they wish to adopt this, as part of our the PSG. Next slide, please. We're also happy to inform you that these manuals are already in an app, because we have a partnership with Bizuku, and you can download it. Next slide, please. But through this link, Bizuku, there's a link. Yes, these are the ways on how you can download these materials. So you can visit that link. You can also scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or you can search for Google Play Store by typing the Department of Tourism Philippines. And well, since this is still a work in progress, the app or the manuals and other information materials on the manpower development initiatives and programs of the DOT are available in this app. And at this time, it's only for Android devices, but we're still working on it, that it's going to be also available in iOS devices. Next slide, please. So at this point in time, what we're looking at in terms of furthering this advocacy of the department to really help both the academic community and, of course, our tourism industry in improving and enhancing our OJT program, with the end in mind of improving the quality of our training delivery and our, the study of our tourism and hospitality students. We are also looking at developing the travel and tour labor division manual. No? So this is to complete the 6 labor divisions under the ASEAN Mutual Recognition Arrangement on Tourism Professionals. And since this resource material will already be in your hands, you can look at it by converting these manuals to an online or remote application. And lastly, we'd like to foster or really strengthen the industry academe partnership. And I am pleased to inform everybody that CHED and DepEd has reached out to the Department of Tourism for collaboration, in many aspects. And we are actually planning a memorandum of understanding, signing a memorandum of understanding among, of course, DOT, DepEd, CHED, TESDA, and TIBFI. We have been planning, just to give you a secret, this has been planned 6 years ago, the signing of an MOU. But sabi ko nga, everything is, in God's perfect time. It took a COVID for really, for all of us to, come together and take this as a priority. So this is going to happen in our next ASEAN MRA webinar, wherein we also plan to turn over other resource materials, no, yung ASEAN toolbox natin, to our partner government agencies and of course the private sector. And we plan to have this next month in September. So please note that really tourism is considered a key economic driver in the Philippines. Pre-COVID time, the latest statistics given out by the Philippine Statistical Authority, that there were 5.7 million Filipinos employed in the tourism and industry sector. And this comprises 13% of the country's country's employment. So, and last May, we know that, the secretary earlier mentioned that tourism is really the, hardest, if not one of the hardest hit sectors during this time. But there's a silver lining for all of us. Last May, Forbes magazine, which is a top business magazine, globally, has identified the Philippines as one of the 7 countries to be a major tourism destination in a post-COVID world. So, diba, it gives us hope. Even amidst all of this, all of what is happening, I think the resiliency of the Filipino people will really bring us out of this situation. So laban lang po tayo, and the future of our tourism leaders are in the hands of our teachers, our trainers, and of course the tourism industry. So we really hope we can work together in realizing our goal of making the Philippines a major global tourism destination. So thank you very much, and mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Our second speaker for this morning finished her Master and Doctor of Public Administration from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She also finished another Master in International Business and Development Studies from Sophia University in Tokyo, Japan. She served as legislative staff of the Committee on Tourism in the House of Representatives from 1996 to 2014, after which she became the Human Resource Development Strategy Specialist Project Consultant at the Asian Development Bank from 2014 to 2017. She also became the Graduate Program Coordinator from 2017 to 2019 at the UP Asian Institute of Tourism, and currently she serves as the Director of the Academic Affairs in the same university. To present to us this morning the best practices in remote practicum, let us all welcome Dr. Monina Bukat.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm here to share with you the AIT Remote Practicum experience. So, as you know, we're navigating the changing world of tourism under COVID-19. And this requires us to rethink our old practices and discover pockets of ideas that have been lingering for some time. Um, the new situation has changed how we deliver our online or our learning. The practicum experience, for example, which has been valued for giving us the real taste and test of the world of work for our students. Albeit before, it was done in a different setting, maybe an island resort, a hotel, a busy terminal, or just an office where you hear friendly chatter. But as you see, and UNWTO reported a plunge in international tourism arrivals that really affected tourism in all destinations of the world. Thus, the best case scenario would be a gradual reopening of borders by July. But seeing the current reinfections spike of COVID cases, um, we think that recovery would not be around until the mid-year next year. Next slide, please. Okay. Looking at the timeline in the Philippines, 5 months hence since the lockdown, we have been fighting a protracted fight against the coronavirus, and we feel that the local economies have been affected badly and livelihoods in peril because of the effects of the um, series of community quarantine. Next slide, please. Okay. So, what managers need to do now is to really appreciate that this world is changing, and it's volatile, uncertain, and complex, even ambiguous changes requires us to rethink and also to uh, look at solutions and innovations and to move swiftly in order to recover. Next slide, please. Okay. Initial policy responses from the Department of Tourism um, directed us to use technology, to use technology to promote tourism and to continue with the learning through webinars and through various online activities like conferences. Okay, next slide, please. So industry responses also similarly directed us to the use of new technologies. So responses would include acceleration in the move to online transactions, cashless payments, but all of this with greater emphasis on um, sanitation, hygiene, and healthy living. Next slide, please. So the education sector is no different. A move towards virtual classrooms and remote learning settings prompted us to reassess, the needs of our students. Do they have access to technology to promote learning? Next slide, please. But education needs to continue. So we begin to ask ourselves what skills and competencies are necessary for our students to survive and thrive under this current situation. Okay, next slide, please. So we saw an opportunity to explore what our students already possess as digital nomads. We thought the students adapted to use of technology would be highly valued by organizations because they can flexibly navigate the digital world. So next slide, moving forward. Okay. So the concept of the AIT virtual practicum was conceived. So how did AIT do it? Fortunately, the pieces of the puzzle fit. Okay, so for UP, there's an enabling policy that a memo issued allowing units like the Asian Institute of Tourism a free hand in redesigning the courses, including completion of the internship, the practicum, or what you call the on-the-job training. Next slide, please. So we thought of redesigning the courses by delivering it in two modes, synchronous or face-to-face, using available platforms such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and also asynchronous. These are offline activities where teachers will pre-assign work and that outputs will be submitted. So other means of communication like messaging and email will also be used. So therefore, all the students will not necessarily be online every time. So this addresses the major concerns of connectivity. Okay. The next is what we did is we changed the documentary requirements. The memo came with a set of templates and new guidelines to revise contracts and service training agreements. And we also had to ask parents written consent not to allow their kids to go to work, but this time on a work from home setting. Like the parents will see to it that the child remains at home at all times. Okay, so these things you have to do to be able to shift to remote modes. And also, we had to redesign the training plan. So the working with our partners, we agree on the number of hours that the students will be online, what they call the synchronous mode of engagement. And then we also noted that an output-based work or assignment would be best. Okay, so in redesigning the activities with the partners, we thought that they could also move around um, in different departments. For instance, they could have orientation in HR, move with the sales team or the marketing team. They could also familiarize with themselves with reservation systems and customer relations. And some of them can be assigned to work on recovery marketing plans. Okay? And as we did in the past, we have partnerships with government agencies, and they've been doing more of the research that the industry needs, especially at this time. So on top of all that, the redesign of the tourist training plan, we also did some preparatory activities. These are, of course, introducing a lot of concepts that they're not so familiar with. And so during the pre-practicum seminar, we had the blended modes of synchronous and asynchronous learning. And then we invited friends in the industry, alumni, to talk about some updates on the tourism industry. We also asked them if a work from home arrangement is optimal and what are the guidelines, what are the protocols, how would the students behave, how would they appreciate, working their day at home. And then we sought in a legal expert on data privacy and data handling because, as you know, these are very critical times, and the data handling is of utmost importance both for the students and for the partners. Okay? And also, we taught them how to communicate online and behavior, and then to show appropriate behavior in online etiquette. So next slide, please. So aside from that, we also reached out to our current partners, as well as we connected to our alumni. Now, this is important because we really need to look for partners that we could work with and collaborate with, and uh, convey what the objectives of the practicum experience is to our students. So therefore, that I think is important, no? Reaching out to these people that we had dealt before, and that, or the alumni that could help us really reach the objectives of the program. So next slide. And lastly, okay, um, of course, as you know, the online experience wouldn't be as complete if they're not exposed to different settings. And so we need to supplement their learning by choosing webinars and selecting online tourism resources, which students can view for a number of hours. And this completes the experience of our students for the practicum program. And that's it. That's how AIT is doing it. And I hope this sharing will give our partners as well as schools a look at how the practicum program can be shifted to remote modes. Thank you. And maybe some
The
questions
next
later.
speaker is the chairman and president of Raja Travel Corporation, which has evolved from a travel agency to a travel corporation over the years. She has received several awards, like the Global Peace Awards for Empowered Women in Tourism, organized by the International Institute for Peace through tourism in partnership with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, received in 2016. She has also served in several international and national associations, such as the ASEAN Tourism Association, the Philippine Travel Agencies Association, the Philippine IATA Agents Travel Association, and IATA Agency Program Joint Council. She is a double degree holder of Bachelor of Science Management and Economics from St. Mary's College in Moraga, California. Being a second generation of one of the tourism pioneers in the Philippines, she has been fully equipped by experience with necessary knowledge in travel and tourism. One reason why she is one of the most sought-after speakers to various tourism seminars and forums. To discuss program alternatives for remote practicum, let us all welcome Ms. Eileen Clemente.
Hello, good morning to everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Although I know the topic said virtual, no, but we're actually all remote, virtual, and online when we show our practicum mentorship program. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I will discuss this briefly, just to show the depth and breadth of our company, just so you can appreciate why we are able to offer a good remote program. Next slide, please. There. So if you will look at most of the travel agencies, these are their main departments: the leisure travel, documentations, and their admin, no? HR, executive office, and accounting. Can you please animate the next one? And animate the next one. There. Okay, so those are all our other departments in the office. So we have the quality assurance, we have IT, we have marketing, which is divided into the strategic, tactical, and also digital marketing. We have the Tourism Knowledge Center, which is our research arm. We have our web services, which is not just for the leisure or what you feel is OTA, but we do have it also for corporate and program management, which is a subject not really concentrated on by the schools, but is really needed for us, no? So dito pumapasok yung sinasabi ni Asik Rika na medyo may konting gaps between what is taught in school and what is happening in the workplace. We also have our meetings and events, and we also have our tourism site management, which is our little baby of hospitality. But we did not concentrate on site management of just hotels and resorts, but also on museums or even the websites of these museums. Next slide, please. So, next slide, please. So the Travel Academy is where we put all of these modules under or sessions, no? We just want to make sure that we have a devoted department for it as well. So it's all under the Travel Academy. Next slide. So we just want to clarify, because I think this is something that's always being asked of us when we made presentations already to some of the academe, where there's the advisory number 7, where there's a suspension of the OJT programs, more or less. Next slide, please. But again, if we go to the next slide, advisory 2, 3, and 6, next slide, please. It will show that we can actually call it an alternative learning activity should practicum still not be allowed under the 7. Next slide, please. Next slide. There. So what we're offering is a practicum program. It is not a school subject. So if you will look at how we will be presenting it, it really translates our face-to-face practicum program to our online platform, and should be taken as such. Next, please. Next, please. So if we notice, even on the DOT presentation by Asik Rika, most of them are on hospitality, and we really felt the need to have tourism be at par with hospitality as far as creating guidelines is concerned, as far as the level of exposure is concerned. But really, a main difference of hospitality and tourism, so to speak, is that we are concentrating more on a lot of soft skills, no? Even if you consider booking as a menial task, it really is not, because it is actually a core business if you really put the intuitiveness, analytical thinking, critical thinking into play, which is what we did with our practicum program. Apart from that, here are some of our rationale why we are providing this, because of course, there's also a new normal, so we have to be able to realize that right now, practicum has to also conform to the new normal, where we also have work from home programs. No, the only reason why we cannot offer work from home as part of our practicum is that there is no transactions at this time in tourism, or very little or minimal, which can be handled already by our current teams. Next slide, please. And even with this pandemic, we want to be able to support the outcomes-based education that is part of the CMO of CHED also. And of course, we want to establish the skills and competencies to be near hire pa rin. Kasi if we don't offer any practicum programs, those who will be left behind right now will not be near hire, and there are countries that are already opening up also for employment. Unfortunately, sa Philippines, we're not really in that stage right now, but definitely they will be looking for near hire quality of people. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. And next slide. So just to make a differentiation when we look at what we're doing, we didn't call it a module again because we don't want to be teaching. So we call it a program. So same with the way we're doing it, we're not calling the each topic as a subject, but actually as sessions. Next slide, please. Next slide. So right now we are offering 21 different sessions. If you exhaust them all, it's around 540 hours for phase one, because this is just our initial salvo, so to speak. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So in any case, while they're fixing the slides, I just want to tell you that when we conduct these, we have the different sessions, including understanding the industry, the content platforms that are used, not just the GDS and so on. Just as what is here, this is just one sample, no. But just for you to look at the slides, what we recommend to be taken in first or second year if they're taking their practicum first and second year and third and fourth year, and what are the equivalent number of hours, and then some recommended prerequisites, though they're not cast in stone, but it will optimize the student's ability to understand the course. Next slide, please. So when we do session content, next slide, we just have a few parts to it. No, the instructional briefer is just the portion where teaching and mentoring are necessary, because we have to be able to know, because we're taking different students from different HEIs, that the level of understanding of different concepts are the same among different HEIs. And then you have validation exercises, which are polls and quizzes, because we're not, for polls, we're not grading these, but they are necessary to find out if the instructor is teaching in a way that the students understand it, and at the same time, it is a way for us to check attendance. They may be physically present pero mentally absent. So yan yung polls. Quizzes naman is similar to a poll, but it's graded. Next slide, please. So those application exercises, we concentrated on 3: skill testing, situation analysis, and business simulation. So this is where we're saying that they are not menial tasks, because we're telling them how to use their analytical skills, their critical thinking, their intuitiveness in handling different situations that are practical and actual to the company, past experiences of Raja. So most of our courses are based really on, our sessions are based mostly on Raja-related exercises. Next slide. So this is just a video that will show just one example of what I'm saying. So just to show you also that we have a registration process, each class size is a minimum of 20, a maximum of 30 students, but that's not the number of the students that an HEI needs to send us to complete this. Next slide, please. This will just show the registration process where we are also sending the copy of the information that a student sends to us back to the practicum advisor as a second layer of check whether a student can indeed take their practicum. Next slide, please. And then once approved or rejected, we send a different message to the student. And once the student receives the approval, then they can continue with their enrollment. Next slide, please. So basically, this is just the general information sheet sample. Very simple. Next slide. And then we don't really grade them. We just rate them, no. We give a numeric rating, but it's up to the school to grade pass or fail. But these are some of the midterm assessment matrix that was required of us by some of the HEIs already. Next slide. And for those without a final grading system, we are giving this one unless an HEI already has their own rating system. Next slide. Next slide. So the way our pricing works is the number of hours and the number of students. But in any case, we allow the practicum advisors to participate in the practicum sessions because we want them to be able to experience what the students are experiencing. And later on, they would be able to also know whether this is a good program or not, or if we get their feedback. And we also offer additional concessions for over 30 students that there is one faculty member that may take it. Next slide, please. So just to compare, we also allow different payment methods. It could be the through school or through our company in the various methods. Next slide. So just to show or make you appreciate the cost to a student to make an actual face-to-face practicum, they would spend for 300 hours, they would spend 28,000. With our system, it's just like 10% of that. So I think this is a good alternative for those that are really not who cannot afford to bring their students here to Manila to experience our practicum program. Next slide. So this is for those coming outside of Manila. This one naman is those coming from within Manila. Next slide. So this is just our last slide. Our first offering will be already on October 5. And there were schools that already expressed their interest on this. And if you need more details, we will provide the contact link because we are really orienting a lot of different HEIs more extensively. This is just a 10-minute presentation, so I can't really get into a lot of details. But with that, I hope you can consider our remote program. Thank you.
Our next speaker finished her Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Arts from St. Vincent's College in Dipolog City. She also has a Master of Science in Tourism and Hospitality Management degree from the De La Salle College of St. Benilde. She has 30 years of diversified experience in the hospitality industry with expertise in sales and marketing in hotels, resorts, and restaurants in Manila, Cebu, and Davao in local and international brands. Currently, she's the Director for Sales and Marketing of Savoy Hotel in Mactan, Cebu. Please welcome Ms. Noriel J. Roldan.
Great morning, everyone. Thank you, TIBFI, for organizing this webinar. Allow me to share with you the programs that we have for the Academe of the Mega World Hotels. Can you please start with the slides? Okay. We call the program Academe by Mega World Hotels. So this is a solution to tourism and hospitality students' immersion and training requirements, a partner to formal education. So next slide. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation this morning. So what are the hotels under the Mega World? OWT is the new OJT. who are the subject matter experts of these sessions. We also have the rates, inclusions, and the number of hours. Next slide, please. So Mega World Hotels. This group is the biggest local homegrown hotel chain in the country, currently with 3,500 room keys, and is forecasted to double in 2 years' time. So these hotels are under the Mega World Group. So we have the Belmont Hotel Manila, Belmont Hotel Boracay, Savoy Hotel Manila, Savoy Hotel Boracay, Savoy Hotel Mactan, Richmond Hotel Ortigas, Eastwood Richmond Hotel, Hotel Richmond Hotel Iloilo. We also have Twin Lakes Hotel in Tagaytay. We also have the Hotel Lucky Chinatown and the soon to open Kingsford Hotel in Manila. Next slide, please. On the web training is the new on-the-job training. Actually, this was a project by the Director of Sales and Marketing of Mega World Hotel. This came about in one of the brainstorming sessions, and this project was formally launched in June through a webinar with 1,600 participants. And we also had its pilot run last month, July. Okay, this program has 10 experts from the group. We also have to do the 2-hour lecture per session for 5 days. And we also have 10 hotels to experience and explore. 5 sessions, next slide please. 5 sessions, we actually start with the human resource. And then second session will be the front office. Third is the food and beverage, production and service. Next is housekeeping. And then the 5th session is sales and marketing. Now we have carefully chosen the best and most experienced subject matter experts to handle these sessions. They will share their own knowledge and experiences about the specific topics mentioned. And these experts actually have worked for big brands. They also have traveled and made a name for themselves. Okay, just to mention, the subject matter experts, like for human resource, this is actually being handled by no less our group director of human resource and senior hotel trainers. Front office and guest services is being handled by a general manager with 26 solid years background in front office. Our food and beverage production and service is being handled by an executive chef and a resident manager with 15 years in F&B service. Our housekeeping session is being handled by executive housekeeper. And our sales and marketing session is being handled by cluster director of sales and marketing and area director of sales and marketing. So this is a synchronous mode of engagement, and we do it via Zoom. Next slide, please. We actually had our first batch. We have 20 students, and we are currently wrapping up the session with a final exam. The hotel experience will be scheduled on a later date until all the quarantine levels will be lifted. Now, we are now in the process of compiling testimonials, but I'm happy to share some of those who have given their testimonials early. Moving forward, okay, this is from PUP. I just want to read some of the details now. This pandemic may have destroyed some dreams, but the Academe has opened and gave us opportunities to learn and do more amidst pandemic. Next, please. Another one from Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. This pandemic brought us hardships, but the Mega World Academe helped me realize that even if I am quarantined at home, I can also be productive with my time. The Mega experts share their knowledge to us. Next slide, please. So we have also a participant from TESDA. He says, the realistic teaching approach of our trainers help us develop and apply it to increase our learnings. Next slide, please. From Cavite State University, The Mega World Eye Academy made me realize that there is more to learn in our hospitality industry. My goals for now have changed. It is okay to dream high, but you should know where to start and grow. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is also from Cavite State University. Our on-the-web session has been very informative and helpful experience to us. Next slide. Okay, this is our program. The OWT, or on the web training full package, is actually 25,000 per student. This includes 5 sessions covering 5 departments, as I have mentioned earlier, and 8 overnight vouchers in any hotel of their choice. A certification of completion will be given after the hotel experience. So in our first batch, probably they will be given their certificate of completion only until they will experience the hotel themselves, unless the quarantine levels will be lifted as well. Now, this OWT guaranteed 500 equivalent number of hours. So how do we do that? Without even seeing the hotel first, the students are guaranteed with 500 hours. Now, each of the session have activities. Each of the speakers will give activities of the students, but which they can submit within the duration of the OWT program. They will also be given a final project and a final exam. So like in a regular classroom, we are also monitoring the performance of the participants. We checked their attendance. We have a team to specifically monitor that via Zoom. We have to check their attendance, their engagement, the results of their final exam, and of course, the feedback of their final project. We have another program, which is the Stay and Learn, which is 3,800 per student. This only involves 1 session of their choice, because probably the students, we will allow the students to choose which of the sessions they would like to do lang, no? So, but this Stay and Learn will give them only 1 voucher, 1 overnight voucher of hotel of their choice with 1 meal, and a certificate of completion, again, only after the hotel experience. Okay, we give them only the numeric grades, and we just summarize it and identify the best. We are in the process of identifying the best student of the first batch. Next slide, please. Okay, I guess my presentation is just very short. So we're encouraging the students who are participating in this webinar today to please email us, and so we can tailor fit your requirements. So please email us at megaeyeacademy@gmail.com. And to end, I would like to borrow what DOT Secretary Puyat mentioned earlier. Together, we will recover as one. Thank you very much for having me.
Our first panel of reactor this morning is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Infrastructure and Construction Management Office. He has been SHED technical member since 2009 for tourism professionals for business and management education. He occupied various administrative positions such as program chairperson, dean, vice chancellor for administration, a faculty member of the De La Salle College of St. Benilde for more than 20 years. His area of expertise are academic curriculum development and evaluation, academic services operations, information systems, and project management. He currently serves as the CHED Technical Committee Chairperson for Tourism and Hospitality Management. Please welcome Dr. Ben-Hur Ong. Our next panel of reactor for this morning finished her Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Administration from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She has 30 years of engagement in education, business, politics, civic and religious movement, and she's currently the chairman of the Georgie Ilagan International Schools, a network of exclusive schools. She is an honorary consul of Bangladesh and the Secretary of the Asia Pacific Council of Hotel Educators. She's a recipient of numerous awards. Amongst these are the Presidential Medals of Recognition from President Estrada in 1997 and President Arroyo in 2005. She also received the Outstanding Asian Woman Entrepreneur, 100 Most Influential Filipino Women in the World Award, Australian Excellence Award, and Alumni of the Year in 2020. She is currently the President of the Council of Hotel and Restaurant Educators of the Philippines, or COREP. Please welcome Ms. Georgie I. Bian. Our next panel of reactor is a graduate of General Manager's Program at Cornell University. He currently serves as the General Manager of the Bayview Park Hotel and has 40 years of hotelier experience. He is a lifetime member of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and Cornell Hotel Society. He is currently the President of the Hotel and Restaurant Association of the Philippines, or the HRAP. Please welcome Attorney Eugene P. Yap. From the student sector, she is currently pursuing Bachelor of Science in International Travel and Tourism Management at the Lyceum of the Philippines, University, Manila. She is currently the National President of the Junior Tourism and Hospitality Management Association of the Philippines. Please welcome Ms. Andrea Nicole Acorda. Thank you very much. And of course, we've heard it from our four panel of speakers for this morning. And we're ready for the panel of reactors comment. Can we hear it first from Attorney Eugene Yap? Attorney? Can you please unmute, sir?
Okay, sorry. I think I was muted. Thank you.
We
Thank you for the
can
reminder.
hear you now, Attorney.
Okay, sorry for that. Good
Always.
afternoon to all. I'm very happy to be here. Again, thank you to TIBFI for inviting me over here. And the speakers have done a wonderful presentation. And in fact, my eyes are opening up to more challenges here. You know that our tagline here today is "It's okay not to be okay." Is the best phrase that I've ever heard during this COVID crisis. And you know, we don't want to keep on doing the doom and gloom sort of scenario, but we have to prepare and move on. You know, after this event, we have to be ready for the high turnover of employment. Many current hospitality industry workers would like to migrate to other jobs, and that's why we need the newcomers, the students who will be preparing for it to come in. Of course, when they come in, they have to hit the ground running, and this is where the training would be highly valued. And I'm glad that Ms. Rica was able to mention her the three-prong targets, which is low regulatory burdens, accreditation standards, and skills development. Also, standardizing the OJT manual would be good. And let me see just, and of course, the immersion. And I'm also glad that she has concentrated on the 4-year baccalaureate program. We feel that it's still an advantage, though not 100% necessity, but it's still a very big advantage for students to go through and finish a 4-year baccalaureate. And let me see, and she mentioned that we hope that in the future less burden will be put on the students for OJT costs, but sometimes we all have to incur cost also because we get professional advice and consultants to be able to teach our students a better way. Sometimes our own professional industry workers are not available, so we have to get outsiders in conjunction with our also inside our insider. But that's good if we can get hopefully a government subsidy or a big sponsor, a sponsorship from outside. That would be a very advantageous for the students. Now, I've looked at the UPAIT. It's very nice. It's going to be a virtual OJT tour for learning environment. And for the Raja tours, I think for the travel industry, it's a well-grasped, well-rounded presentation, and it would be good for the traveling future travel professionals, the students, even to incur a little bit cost in trying to get professional advice for a good professional advice. And the rates that I've observed are quite reasonable. And so it's also with Miss Noriel, with the Mega World group of companies are able to provide a dedicated group of professionals. Of course, sometimes we will have to incur costs, but this would be a good platform to be able for the students to learn a professional, wide array of view as soon as possible. And then for the Mega World, let's see, I've done a good coverage here. Okay, for Mega World, of course, you have also dedicated training, and I'm also wondering if later on you can have also for professionals continuing education for professional industry workers. And then for iAcademy, it's the same thing also. So similar. So I would not like to take much of your time. So I'd like pass it on to the other speakers. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Attorney Yap, for that reaction. And maybe you can stand by later for the panel discussion.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. And now we move on to our next reactor. Can we hear from Ms. Georgie Ilagan Bian? Georgie.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. I listened to the four speakers. I'd like to congratulate them. I would like to run through it's okay not to be okay. I'd like to cite about the advantages of a virtual internship, which is really happening right now. I think it can be very good because it provides mobility for our students at the least cost. The challenge here is really the enhanced creativity in the implementation coming from the faculty side. And the disadvantage that I can see is, of course, the lack of actual physical space where our students can really be exposed to actual industry experience. But as we know today, it's quite difficult to do that. So I'd like to go to the presentation of ASEC RICA. I think just like what Attorney Eugene had said, I like the idea of the manuals. It's a very good term of reference. The faculty members just need to look at the manuals very carefully because I believe it was designed before the pre-COVID time, and so it's entirely a different ballgame right now. So faculty members, we use that manual, we review it, and we can innovate it, we can do some revisions in the delivery. But one thing is very good is because we don't start from zero. We have a reference to start with. And for the AIT experience, the AIT sharing of Dr. Ducat, I like the combination of the synchronous and asynchronous. But my comment is that coming from a faculty point of view, there's a very thin line separating really what's happening during the virtual internship as in the classroom. You know, in the classroom, I know faculty members, teachers like us, especially now when we do online, there is also some simulation activities that we do to support our theories, to support our lectures, and just to make the delivery very interesting and very exciting. So the partner industry just have to make sure that there is no duplication of simulations and other related activity. I like the presentation of Raja, of Miss Eileen. Um, the internship for tourism and travel, and I think she did a very detailed job of a very detailed task of really matching the subject against the internship activities that is to be done by her company. And she was also very clear on showing us a sample of some situational analysis that they are doing. Faculty also do situational analysis when we do lectures, but it would also be, that would really be good when they do situational analysis and it's designed by industry themselves, like the Raja Academy, because it's from an industry's point of view. And the one of Miss Noriel of the Academy, I like the idea that there is a hotel experience. The only challenge there is students finish through all the online lectures done by the industry leaders, done by experts in the hoteliers. But the problem is when do they can have the actual hotel experience. I would like to congratulate all of our speakers. The real challenge is, of course, as again, faculty members and industry partners, I think more than any other time, to make this virtual internship very successful. The basis of this is actually very close coordination between faculty and between us, the teachers, the academe, and of course, the industry partners. One is constant feedback and evaluation, because this is really something very new, constant student feedback so that we can easily realign, readjust, revise the internship delivery. So I think that's all, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Georgie. So I think in her reaction, she was able to emphasize the value of communication, collaboration, feedback, and monitoring. Thank you very much, Ma'am. And now we proceed with our third reactor, Dr. Benhur Ong. Sir Benhur.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Ma'am, hindi po doctor. Mr. lang po. Benhur Ong
Okay,
lang.
Sir Benhur.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, let me just take a short while to thank the Department of Tourism and, of course, for organizing this very, very important event, a seminar on the very important topic of OJT, which is actually a very big concern for most of the universities right now. I will not take time because I think Attorney Eugene and Ma'am Georgie already gave a very, very good gave very good feedback on the presenters, all right? But I will just make my comments in general. All right. I am actually happy that there is a lot of activity from the industry side, especially from MegaWorld, iAcademy, and Raha Travel for doing these initiatives on trying to help out the academe. Because agreed, that's one of the biggest difficulties right now. Students really do not have anywhere to go to get their practicums for tourism management students and hospitality management students. And I am glad that for both, we have options for both. And we also, of course, UPAIT gave a very, very good presentation about how it's supposed to be done on the academe level without these kinds of support services also. But important to understand a few things. Understand that for the schools who are listening right now, understand that these OJT activities, basically now we have service providers for OJT activities talaga eh. That's what's happening right now from what was presented. Understand that the fees for these things have to be very transparent to our students. Kasi nga, syempre, by default kasi OJTs shouldn't be paid for eh. Okay, just a disclaimer. By default kasi, OJTs, as much as possible, have to be voluntary, and it's a requirement for the school. But again, voluntary on the part of the organization who are accepting the OJTs. But it's a different time right now. I'm just saying that we have to be very, very transparent about the fees when we show this to our students. Okay. Of course, for those since there are fees, understand also that if there are students who cannot afford these activities, alternative activities have to be present also. Okay. So kailangan lang we have to make sure there's balance. And of course, coming from a CHED perspective, syempre, we still have to respect that 600 hours OJT time. So it's up to the school and the service provider or the host company to ensure that those 600 hours are met. Diba? So could be that for the Raja training module, or that those modules will be equal to X number of hours. And the school has to provide another activity for the rest of the remaining hours. Okay. Another thing that it's important not to forget is that although basically the what I've seen, it covers the immersion, partly covers the immersion part, but we really have to figure out how we can actually implement on the job training. Okay, so sometimes kasi when you say OJT, there's a component about really actually doing the work, and I think that's something that we still need to resolve, and that one will really be left to the schools, the HEIs, to figure out. The schools should really work with the service providers to ensure the achievement of the learning outcomes. That's the most important thing also. I heard this from Eileen earlier. So that's very, very important. We have to work together to ensure that the learning outcomes are achieved. And as Georgie has mentioned, it is important also not to duplicate things that are already being taught in the academe, right? Maybe again, another way to add to the number of hours or add to the output would really be a student can maybe prepare a feasibility study or a research project, which is actually one of the recommendations of the technical committee. Okay, one of the most important things that I think Attorney Eugene may be able to answer, or even the lady from Mega World Academy, is how ready would industry be to accept people or students or graduates from HEIs, from TM, Tourism Management and Hospitality Management. How ready will you be to accept students who have a different method of OJT training? Acceptable ba sa atin yan? That's something that we have to ask ourselves also, our partners. So in closing, let me just cite a few things. These are important things to remember. Understand, now it may look really bleak right now, but this will not be forever. Okay? So minsan kasi it's really easy to do knee-jerk reactions, but to understand that we have to plan for the next 3 to 5 years. For academia, 3 to 5 years ang planning period po natin. I know it's so hard right now because crisis eh. Anytime there's a crisis, you have to think a bit, syempre, you have to solve. Minsan survival na lang nga eh. But understand that you also have to plan for the next 3 to 5 years also. We need to be resilient, and that now is the time to be innovative. But please make sure that while we are being innovative, we also take care of the quality side. We still need to continue to deliver quality education. And with that, again, thank you to TIBFI and DOT. Thank you for all the presenters. They have been wonderful. I've learned a lot today. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much, Sir Ben-Hur. I think I agree with you. The situation may be bleak right now. Maybe that's the reason for the title of our webinar. It's okay to not be okay. And of course, we will overcome as one. Thank you. And of course, a very important stakeholder. We've been talking about practicum, internship, but of course, let's hear it from the students' perspective. So I call on stage Ms. Andrea Acorda. Miss Andrea?
Hello. All right. Good day to everyone watching from the Tourism and Hospitality Academe and Industry. Thank you so much for inviting me in behalf of the Tourism and Hospitality student body to react on your proposals or your methods that has been implemented in the past months since the quarantine or the pandemic has occurred. So I have here with me my reactions, of course, to the speakers that they have what they have imparted to us a while ago, and I also have here suggestions and insights from tourism and hospitality management students in different levels in different institutions all over the nation. So, first of all, I would like to um, I would like to recommend or sobrang promising po nung sa AIT virtual practicum because I have been looking forward to what is the UPAIT doing because they have of course set the standards for the Tourism and Hospitality Academe, and also I commend your virtual practicum programs and experiences, and it is really the relevant things that that yung relevant po sa ating time ngayon. So what I have here is siguro the questions na lang and the suggestions and insights from the students, because the previous reactors already have highlighted what is indeed the commendable methods and insights from the tourism and hospitality industries and academe, of course. But the first question of the students is, why don't they receive why they haven't received any updates from the institutions, from the tourism and hospitality sectors on what is currently happening like this. We are really grateful that we have this kind of webinar or dialogue between the practitioners and the industry stakeholders. And the question here is that the students do not receive any updates and any heads up from their institutions or from the practitioners or the practicum holders, because that's what they need right now, especially those who are waiting for graduation or already graduating on their last year of um, school year. So next is, what is the assurance that the industry stakeholders will allow the students for online practicum? Because we all know that they are also experiencing struggles in order to survive their business. Of course, financial is a great matter and a serious and crucial matter here. So what is the assurance that they will allow students to work or to be part of their team in time of the pandemic, in time of where struggles are really occurring? So next one is, yes, there is really a disadvantage because there is no exposure to actual working environment. But as the last three actor previous to me have said, that we have to be resilient, and I know that the students, in behalf of the students, I know that we are being very resilient, and we will be really adapting to what is currently happening right now. So all we need is to be updated from what are your steps and what are your implementations and what are your methods na ginagawa po para makapag-adapt tayo to our environment. Because after all, the tourism and hospitality industry is high touch. But because of what has happened in the pandemic, we have to adapt and we have to transform into high tech. So thank you so much for all your recommendations. And I also commend the iAcademy method, the 5 sessions. And then I believe that it can also be implemented to all to the manual, of course, na diniscuss po previously. So I hope that the industry is also ready to accept students na merong different methods, of course, because students are ready to adapt with what you will give us, or what you will give us as OJT requirement. And siguro the last thing is the difference of the difference of the modules na lang. And the difference of the modules na nakalagay po dito, yung in-offer niyo po kanina na modules, online modules, na aaralin po ng students and ng institutions and yung mga industry, tourism and hospitality industry. Yung difference na lang po nun to what is really taught sa academe na. So, I think that's basically it. And of course, can all can the students also work? Kung wala pa po yung update or wala pa pong concrete plan for the OJT practitioner or the OJT students, can they? Their question is, can they already voluntarily employ them or apply for employment on tourism and hospitality businesses or industry, para po meron na rin silang like physical experience, actual experience from tourism industry. So I think that's basically it. And of course, we adapt with the given situation, and we believe that this is not change, it is transformation. So thank you so much to TIBFI and to the Department of Tourism and to everyone involved in the organizing committee of this webinar.
Thank you very much, Andrea. So we heard it from the students. They are ready to adopt. And of course, we have been given a lot of alternatives and options. And those questions that you mentioned this morning is really very significant. A lot of food for thoughts for the academe and also for the industry. Now we formally open our panel discussion. We've received a lot of questions from our FB Live to the sites of Department of Tourism Trains and of course TIBFI. And a lot of questions actually. And so we're going to cluster them. And due to the interest of time, we may not be able to address all questions, but rest assured that our technical team are taking note of these questions so that you can be given a formal reply through email. So first question is for Director Rica, maybe Ma'am Georgie, Attorney Eugene, and Sir Ben-Hur can also comment on this. Director Rica presented the OJT manuals. And a lot of our participants are very interested to get a copy because they also have existing practical manuals in their institutions. The question is, how are these manuals aligned with virtual or remote or online setting in terms of practicum? Is this already customized according to this mode of delivery? And to the rest, Ma'am Georgie, Sir Ben-Hur, and Sir Eugene, is it acceptable, of course, to the professional industry associations and, of course, to CHED? What can you say about this? Maybe Director Rica, ASEC Rica can answer first. ASEC Rica? Is it already aligned with the virtual, online, or remote setting, the OJT manuals as presented? I think I can also direct the questions first to Ma'am Georgie. Is it acceptable in the academic sector, representing, of course, the professional organization for the academe?
Yeah, the manuals that was prepared by DOT, as I said earlier, will be a good reference. At least we don't have to start with zero. But then we have to look at the manuals very well and make sure, as you said, they are aligned with the current situation right now. I have reasons to believe that that manual was done. Many schools have a copy. That manual was done prior to the COVID when virtual internship was not really in our landscape. So the challenge there for the teachers, use this manual. It's very good. There's our terms of reference. There's information there. We just have to innovate, do some revisions so that we adapt to the current environment right now. But very much, the manual is very much appreciated since there is something to work with at the start.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Georgie. Attorney Eugene, what about from the industry side? Are we aware of these manuals already?
I'm starting to learn about this manual, but the most important, I think, people will be wanting to know is how relevant is this OJT program right now to the establishment, especially remote OJT or virtual OJT training, and how relevant could it be? The best, of course, would be face-to-face mentoring of the students, where we'll be able to know how the speed and how capable of that student will be in that working environment. Of course, however, during the COVID area, that won't be necessarily that always as practicable. Now, this is where the virtual or the remote training comes in, the OJT. It's very important now. Though it will not replace the face-to-face, it will at least cut down a significant portion for the student to go in the training. If the OJT, the actual face-to-face, that person will be needing, let's say, 60 hours or 30 hours. But because of the virtual training and the remote training, the advanced training that this student will have, it may cut down to maybe a quarter or one third or 40% of the time that is needed. So instead of maybe 60 hours, maybe the face-to-face would be cut down to around maybe 50% or 40. And that will be a good achievement in saving time already, so that the students will be able to jump into the establishment as soon as possible. Remember, we are facing a big migration of hospitality workers outside the hospitality industry. So uh, we have to be ready with that, with the incoming students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Eugene. Sir Benhur?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Unfortunately, ASEC Rika, I think, dropped line. But just to be very clear, the DOT already submitted those set of documents, the OBT guidelines, to the CHED Technical Committee, and we are currently looking at it. I think it's a very, very wonderful document. They took the time to. Remember, this is a document from industry. This is from the Department of Tourism being sent to CHED, also to the technical committee to review. And so we are taking it as Ms. Georgia has mentioned, it's a very good takeoff point for the schools or for HEIs who still do not have their own training guidelines. But let me just be very clear. I think there was a question earlier about is this document already ready for COVID? I don't think it is. It was prepared before. It was actually a document that was submitted even before the
Before.
COVID crisis came about. But it's still a good document to use as a reference. Um, I think it for those who are during the current pandemic, I think it's a very good opportunity also for the practicum handlers or for the practicum faculty to look at their deliverables. Take that document, take your own document, try to see try to revisit how we can improve on it, and maybe taking a cue from Sir Eugene, how can we really make this, at least for the next 2 years, how can we make it relevant to do online work? I think that's the challenge now. Understanding what the required outcomes are. Does it match our guidelines? Do we need to add some more? Do we need to put in online etiquette concerns about that, especially that because we're in the hospitality industry and the tourism industry? It's a very, very good time to revisit your learning outcomes. So again, let me just clarify, let me just finalize. Documents the documents submitted, ODT guidelines by DOT, probably are not ready for COVID, and then we have to adopt it for COVID-related activities. I'm pretty sure there's no reference there from work from home. Okay, it's definitely wala pong ganyan dyan. It's up to the Academe to adjust. But the guidelines from the DOT, although not yet endorsed by CHED, we are still looking at it. Hopefully, we get to that because there's a lot of other issues involved. But we will hopefully finalize an OJT guidelines. Hopefully, that's in the agenda within the next year. All right, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Benhur. And of course, all of us from the Academe will be waiting for that updates. And of course, I'd like to go back to ASEC Rika. ASEC Rika, I think there's a question here about the OJT
Yes.
manual as presented.
Yeah, right.
If it's
Yeah,
going to be aligned already.
Correct. I heard the question before I was cut off, Dean Beth. No, so like what Ben Hur was saying, these documents were prepared or developed pre-COVID, and it was really intended for a face-to-face OJT delivery. But because we are presenting this as at the same time, because this can really be resource material which can supplement whatever the HEIs and the training centers would have right now. An opportunity for everyone involved in the OJT and practicum to revisit and customize these manuals according to their needs and standards, and of course the needs of the students. So yun lang. Pwede naman talaga siyang gamitin natin as reference material lang. But of course, it would be so much better because we were also advocating this. And I also sit in the technical panel. I've been trying to convince my colleagues in the technical panel to also, if CHED would want to look at it. And there could also be adjustments in this manual. Parang ang reference natin. So like what, and I appreciate what Attorney Eugene said earlier, that what we're trying to do here is really standardizing an OJT program in the country. It's not, having parang a template, but of course, as a minimum, because iba-iba rin naman ang resources ng ating educational institutions at ng ating capacity ng ating mga colleges and schools. So we could actually propose what could be a minimum, and then everybody could make adjustments in terms of according to their respective needs and capacities. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, ASEC Rika. I think that's a very important point, that most of the academic institutions have different resource and capacities. And so the OJT manuals that we have right now can be customized. It could be a framework, and we can use the contents already. Okay. I think the next question would be for Ms. Eileen and also Ms. Noriel. I think we have several questions about this in our chat room. The question is, how or what will set your programs apart with those programs being offered already as subjects in various schools, colleges, and universities? Since this is going to be deployed online, and right now the Academe is, most of them are in online mode also. So I think the question is how to avoid redundancy or duplication of contents and activities, and what will set your programs apart with that of the contents being offered already by academic institutions. Maybe we can hear it first from Ms. Eileen, and then Ms. Ariel.
Okay, thank you for that question. Actually, we already made several presentations to the institutions just to show them how different it is from what is being taught in school. In fact, that's why we made the difference in the language that we use, such as not saying it's a module, not saying it's a subject, and also the practical exercises, no? As I said, we cannot do any work from home because there's no transaction in the industry right now, or very minimal. So what we have done is really base it on our actual past experiences, where even our own teams had a struggle in performing their duties, no, and applying yun nga, the critical thinking, intuitiveness, and so on. So if I can, we already gave one example, but probably another example that I can say is that, which we show when we talk to the Academe, no, in our own presentation to them, which takes about an hour. We show, for instance, that they have to manage time. They have two important tasks. How can they perform both at the same time, where the deadline is coming very fast? Yung mga ganong klase, so real life application already of what is being taught in school. We're not sticking with a lot of things that are taught in school, with the exception of corporate travel and program management, because as I said, these are things not really taught in school. Everyone keeps on concentrating on leisure, on tour products, and so on, which we also provide. But those, we can do practical applications right away. Ang corporate travel and program management and yung supplier negotiation related to corporate travel is really different. So yun yung mga emphasis namin, and where we put a lot of info briefer, while the others have more practical exercises. And for tourism, I think we're the only ones offering right now.
Yes, actually, there are a lot of comments from our chat box that they are very happy that now we have an alternative for tourism, because we've been seeing a lot of hotels and other institutions offering for the hospitality side. Okay, and of course, we want to hear also from Ma'am Noriel. Ma'am Noriel, what's your take on this? Can you please unmute? Thank you.
Okay. So our speakers for each sessions are actually employees of the Mega World Hotels, and our practical application is also what make us different from the one it's being taught in schools. And coaching maybe, because we are also going to monitor the progress of our own participants. Right now we have 20 and we are going to monitor what will happen to them in the future. That's how dedicated we are. And it's going to be easier. This is not a guarantee that we will be hiring these participants, but there is a possibility that we will be considering them for future jobs because they have also had the sessions with us in Mega World Hotels Academy. So again, we are just enhancing what has been taught in school by showing the actual examples of these departments, the actual happenings in each of the departments through the subject matter experts, which also employees of the hotel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom Noriel. I think it's really a challenge how to harmonize the learning outcomes set by the schools and, of course, make the program more outcomes-based at this point. And we're very happy that we're seeing a lot of case studies and simulations in the programs that you're offering. This is a very strong question and comment, okay? So could DOT or maybe CHED perhaps meet the training managers of hotels and the industry sector and tell them to implement these training manuals? A lot of hotels and establishments are giving limited exposure to our students. So could DOT or CHED perhaps demand that the industry follow the OJT manual? It will be useless if Academe adopts, but the industry does not.
Dean, okay, we cannot demand. We can only like propose and advocate. You know, in my presentation earlier, we share that the DOT has been conducting orientation seminars on the use of these manuals among schools and of course hotels as well. So yung word na demand, tama ka, you're strong. Hindi naman ganon, but unless of course CHED, no, if it's really going to be adopted by HEI, then that has to go through a PSG issuance. But at this point in time, since all of this is just recommendatory and for consideration of the industry, then what DOT has been doing is really advocate the use of these resource materials. We can actually continue to organize seminars and orientation on these OJT manuals, and in fact we can probably do it at a regional level. So hindi na siguro yung ganitong national, but we can go down at the regional level para mas intimate and siguro mas maririnig din natin yung the other concerns and suggestions and inputs from the ground, no, as we would want to further improve these materials.
I think it's more on consultations. I think that's
yes.
Those are okay. Thank you very much, Asek. Sir Ben Hur, on the side of CHED.
Of course, right. But sorry. Well, as I've said, I can't speak for the rule of CHED, ma'am, but understand that is one of the main reasons why we are reviewing the document. The document, the OJT guidance has been submitted by DOT to CHED, and it's our job to make sure that at least the academicians can actually implement it in their schools. But one of the tasks also of the technical committee is to talk to industry heads, and that's why we appreciate Attorney Eugene is here. I believe he's the president of HR. Of course, we will make the necessary representations to them so that to make sure that the documents that we're going to push out to the HEIs are acceptable also to industry. So that one would be a good idea for CHED and DOT to approach the different hospitality organizations and the different tourism organizations to get their buy-in when we do implement this out. So that's why we're taking a bit of time also. But that's the objective, man.
That's a very good insight. I think the convergence is very important here. If we have a very good working document, however, it's not going to be followed or implemented on the industry sector, I think it's not going to be very significant. and it's not going to
course.
yield the outcomes that we're envisioning. I would like to hear also from Attorney Yap. What's the take on this particular question, especially so that it involves the industry, giving limited exposure to students? And with the manual that we have now, this could be something that could be a starting point. Sir Eugene, Attorney.
Okay. Yes. The manual is very important as of the moment. Like I say, how relevant could it be? It's quite very, very relevant now, especially during this pandemic crisis. It will cut down the shortage of the, again, the time of the students to learn. Um, we like ASIC Rika would say, we would set a minimum. We would set a minimum and leave it to the establishments on how on how to go about it further. Okay, and do you have a follow up question on that
I
one,
think
or was I
I think
able to
Sir Eugene,
cover your?
a lot of our participants are looking into the limited exposure of students. For example, in the hotel, they are only given menial tasks in one department, and so the training program that was created by the schools and the universities are not being implemented.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so I hope this could be also answered. Um,
yes. Um, unfortunately, many of the establishment do not have the space or the space to would be able to show the students. Though we would like to show the students the OJT, the all areas of the hotel, it may not necessarily be possible. When the OJ, let's not expect too much from the industry or from each establishment. The maximum exposure that we can give is up to probably around 30% of what a regular employee would be able to experience because of the limited time, because of the limited training, shall we say, mentors, the trainers that each establishment have. Each establishment, you must understand, is in the business of providing service to customers, to paying customers. If the establishments would be able to address this issue and accept the students, well and good, even for a cost. But again, unfortunately, the establishments, the people are multitask. The people do not have much time in trying to give as much exposure as we can. We do try it. Many hotels do try it, but once we are able to accept it, we do not accept so many students so that we will able to mentor them as much as we can. That's why we have seen many of the OJTs going abroad because of the lack of establishments. Just the lack of establishments alone here in the Philippines, plus the training, the mentors, the capacity of the establishments, and the capacity of the employees, of the professionals to teach properly to the students. So these are the things that we are facing. But if we can have a standard manual with that, and then maybe we could start to learn and progress from that minimum standards. Thank you.
I think we also need to acknowledge, of course, the considerations that's given by the industry and their limitations. I would like to read this comment. I think this is from an industry perspective that the hotel institutions are granting favors to host OJTs and that they have their own standards, especially the international brands. So it should be the other way around, and Academe should customize their OJT metrics based on the industry standards or at least agree on the minimum. So I think here we have to be able to communicate with our chosen training partner what are our expectations and of course what are their standards. We do not want only one sector who will benefit from this internship or practicum partnership, but both should have a win-win situation at the end of the day. Another question here, I think this time we would like to address this to Ma'am Bukat, and maybe Ma'am Georgie can also comment on this one. Um, how do we ensure that competencies are achieved if the only basis for assessment is being done virtually. There's no actual demonstration. There's no actual performances. What will be the leverage for this? I think that's because of the presentation of Ms. Monina, and maybe Ma'am Georgie can also supplement some answer. They're asking about the validity of the assessment that is being given to students, since of course there's no actual demonstration, there's no actual work being done. So how do we supplement all of this assessment or um, demonstrations lacking in our system right now? Ms. Monina?
Yes, first of all, our practicum program gives a taste of real world experience for our students. And that we at AIT, though we wanted for our students to learn skills, um, at this point, we emphasize competence, meaning competency handling real work problems. In terms of the limitation, we do agree that there are limitations to online or remote practicum, but these limitations can be supplemented by other means of training and assessment. So we really had to carefully plan with the institutions how we wanted these trainings to be done, and what are the supposedly outcomes that should be accomplished by our students. So on that side, there is of course a limit on the competencies, the skills that can be learned by students. But on the other hand, this can be supplemented by other forms of training that are already available online. And so I think a close coordination with your partners will help the institution like AIT accomplish the practicum objectives without actually sacrificing the competence that they would need to finish the program.
Thank you very
I
much,
think
Ma'am Monina. Ma'am Georgie?
Okay. You were talking about assessment levels. Since we could not do actual demonstrations, we could not do face to face. So the faculty members at this point of time, teachers like us, like members of the academe, this is really very challenging times. No, as I've said earlier, innovation is really the name of the game here. I Many of our teachers can do demonstrations. That is not really a problem because you can do it online, you can do video, etc. The problem I think that that teachers are facing in terms of assessment is the return, how students can show to us, which was very easy before because we can do face to face, whether they were able to absorb the practical part of what the teacher has taught. So there are many ways now, even through technology, it would just take so much time for faculty members. You can ask your students to send you a video if you're in doing culinary arts, to send you a video of them, preparing a dish, doing hygienic practices. It just now is the time really that you cannot limit. You cannot limit, let's say, 3 hours for a class, 4 hours for a culinary lab. There's really much work that has to be done in order to be able to respond to the need to really make a very thorough and fair assessment criteria. I understand that doing it now in technology, everyone is still adjusting. We're still on the adjustment phase. But I'm very confident that given probably one term, 2 or 3 months, or even shorter, both of us, the industry and the academe, would be able to come out with a very sound assessment methodology and assessment criteria that can be done virtually. As of now, both sectors are still in the learning stage. We're both experimenting what works best and what does not work best, and then implementing what we think is to be done. So I'm very confident we can do it. So those are questions that we hope we can answer also in due time. In my school, I'm giving my faculty members like 2 months to be able to really come out with, because of student feedbacks and everything, to be really able to come out with a sound assessment methodology in terms of practical assessments. The theory, I don't think it's a problem. The theory part is very easy. It's a practical assessment that's very difficult.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Georgie. We have still a lot of unanswered questions in our chat boxes. In our FB Live, we've received all your questions and your comments, and thank you very much for actively participating. Our panel of reactors and, of course, our panel speakers were able to give very good insights with regards to internship and practicum. So we thank the participation of everyone. But let me ask this on a final note. Maybe one by one, in one short, very, very short sentence or a word, what can you say about this practicum options? So is it okay to not be okay at this time in relation to our team? Very briefly, maybe we can start with Asek Rika, maybe a word or two, or one sentence perhaps.
Yes, for me, it's okay not to be okay at this time. Everybody, you're all caught unaware with this in a situation where we are now. We are all in a learning curve. So it's okay. Let's take this opportunity to revisit what we have and learn from this journey.
Thank you very much, Asek Rika. Can we hear from Attorney Eugene?
All right. So this is the best, again, like what I said, this is the best tagline I've heard. It's okay not to be okay. So for the first time, I guess I'm not the establishment or the industry is not ashamed anymore for being doom and gloom at this portion. And this is a time for us to move forward. And I would like to advise the academe and to prepare the young students, because the young students would be the hospitality workers of the future. So we're relying on you on that one. So we are really gearing forward. So we hope the industry would be able to open up soon again, so we'd be able to start. We won't be able to know the situation unless we start opening up again. So that goes for the industry and for the education department division. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Attorney Eugene. Can we hear from Miss Eileen?
Okay, so for me, what I would like to say is that we have to start somewhere, but more than that, we have to start somewhere together. So I think this is one of the platforms where the academe, government, and the industry is working together towards a goal. And we're all starting from somewhere. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be at least a start.
That's well said. Can we hear now from Sir Benhur?
Well, as the theme of the topic, the theme of the webinar is "It's okay not to be okay." Okay, that is very true. But we really need to adapt, and we really need to innovate quickly. We need really to have the courage and act as a beacon to our students and our faculty. Okay? We owe it to our students, we owe it to our faculty, and we owe it to the industry. We need to overcome this. We need to find ways. So it's okay not to be okay. Just be sad for a bit, but really we need to understand our position in this pandemic. Learning has to continue, and that's why we need to adapt and we need to innovate as soon as we can. Thank you.
So it's okay not to be okay. Can we hear from Ma'am Monina?
Yes, it's okay to not be okay. So, first of all, we have to take stock of what we already have, what our strengths are. We should explore these options together. We should learn this together and take the opportunity to keep on learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Monina. Can we hear now from Ma'am Noriel? Can you unmute, please?
Sorry for that. Okay. It's okay to be not okay, and I agree with that. We at Mega World is here to share our knowledge and practical application of what it is in the real world. We are here to support our future hoteliers.
Thank you very much, Ma'am L'Oreal. Of course, Ma'am Georgie.
So I'm here in Davao right now. So I'm very excited because this era, I think, is the most exciting part, most exciting era for the educational sector. You know, it's okay, but I can be not okay. But I look at this as an avenue for opportunities, as an avenue for greater learning, and all of us will remember this as part of as part of the history of our education. So I'm very excited about what's going to happen. No one can predict really what's going to happen, and each and everyone in the academe, all our faculty members are really very creative, very innovative, and I would like to congratulate all of them for being very optimistic about all of this. Now is the time to really go hype and be very happy about what's happening, because actually we need to be okay even if it's not okay. That's really the way to go.
That's oozing with a lot of positivity. Thank you very much, Ma'am Georgie. And of course, last but not the least, can we hear it from a student representative of national organization, CHAMAP, Ms. Andrea Acorda.
Yes, for me and in behalf of the student, it is really okay to not be okay, because in this time, everything is a trial and error system, and we have to adapt and we have to transform with what we with what we already have. So it's a good thing that everyone has their own steps and initiatives and did not remain stagnant, considering that this pandemic stopped everything. So thank you so much for the initiatives from all sectors of the tourism and hospitality academy and industry, and we are ready to adapt and to transform with what has happened and what has occurred in our time today.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and to all our speakers and reactors. And just like the tongue twister of the title of the webinar, it's okay not to be okay. If you're a Korean drama aficionado, you know what this means. So a lot of learnings in that Korean drama. And for this morning, a lot of learning is shared by our distinguished speakers and reactors. I think right now we can open our video pane for photo opportunity with our distinguished speakers and reactors. Can we do our photo session right now while everyone else present? Take some screenshots. This is in a different setting, actually. And of course, this morning will not pass without giving our gratitude to all of you. At this point, we would like to award our
You're mute. Unmute.
SIM and TESDA awards the Certificate of Appreciation to ASEC Maria Rica Bueno, Dr. Manina Bukat, Ms. Eileen Clemente, Ms. Noriel Roldan, for their invaluable sharing as speakers in the webinar entitled It's Okay Not to Be Okay, Remote Virtual Online Face-to-Face Practicum, held today, August 20, 2020, signed Maria Cristina Capistrano, TIBFI Treasurer, and Ms. Maria Cristina Giacchino, TIBFI Chairman. The same certificate goes for our panel of reactors. This certificate of recognition appreciation is being given to the following: Mr. Benwer Ong, Ms. Georgie Ilagan Bian, Attorney Eugene Yap, and Andrea Acorda for their invaluable sharing as reactors in the webinar entitled It's Okay Not to Be Okay, Remote Virtual Online Face-to-Face Practicum, held today, August 20, 2020, signed Ms. Maria Cristina Capistrano, TIBFI Treasurer, and Ms. Maria Cristina Giacchino, TIBFI chairman. Thank you very much to all of you. And of course, we also would like to award our host organization as part of our recognition for their effort and support to this webinar. This certificate of appreciation is, of course, given to the Department of Tourism for generously hosting the webinar FB Live in our webinar entitled It's Okay Not to Be Okay Remote Virtual Online Face-to-Face Practicum held today, August 20, 2020. Signed, Ms. Maria Cristina Capistrano and Ms. Maria Cristina G. Aquino. Thank you very much to all of you. And we would like to remind all our participants, thank you very much, TP and DOT and TESDA for the appreciation. There are a lot of people who work behind the scenes, and so they deserve also that recognition. Later, I think, to be given by the chairman. Some reminders for now. Zoom participants who accomplish the evaluation form will be given the e-certificates in the speaker's presentation. For Ms. Eileen Clemente's presentation, Raja Travel Corporation will be willing to discuss the proposal with interested institutions. They already gave their contact details, so if you would like a session with them to explain the proposal, they will be willing to share it with you anytime. So we just have to get in touch with them. Flash on your screens right now is the evaluation link. So kindly accomplish the evaluation and you will receive your e-certificate and speaker's presentation. So we also have the QR code. Kindly refer to them, and I think the evaluation link will be available only for 2 hours after we end this morning's webinar. And of course, we've come to the end of the program. And of course, let me call the chairman of the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated, Ms. Maria Cristina G. Aquino, to give the synthesis of this morning's webinar. Ma'am Tina. Of course, we would also like to acknowledge the people working behind the scenes, Sir Orly and Sir Jay, and all of the members of your team. Of course, DOT, Ma'am Arlene, Director Weng, of course. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. I know we have not covered the depth of the discussion because there are so many questions. We live in a world that's very uncertain, as what Ms. Bukat mentioned, the VUCA that we have to transform into positive VUCA. And so I think those are some of the takeaways. And of course, while you're on FB, while I'm trying to connect Ma'am Tina, maybe you would like to type a word. One takeaway that you have for this morning's webinar, what have you learned? Is it exciting? Is it enlightening? Maybe you can type all of those positive words and let's spread positivity, because agree, it's okay not to be okay, or it's okay to be not okay, whatever it is. Let's continue to pray for the Philippines and pray for our industry. At this point, I would turn over the virtual floor to Ma'am Tina Aquino, the chairperson of TIBFI, for the synthesis. Ma'am Tina?
Thank you very much, Beth. It's been a long discussion, but I think it is worth every minute that we stayed over time for this. So moving forward, I always like to end any seminar, webinar with a tagline. Moving forward, we need to be hospitable. And this hospitable means H is hopeful. Why hopeful? Because it's a work in progress. Many of the things that were presented is something that was done, initiated by many of our colleagues from Raja, from UP, from Academe. And these are things that are going to be under scrutiny of many players, industry, academe, students, etc. And so this is going to be undergo a lot of versions. Like yesterday, we were talking about my presentation is version 1, version 2. In the same thing, I think they will also be responsive to changes, comments from participants. Be open. I guess we cannot go back to what it was before in taking practicum, but there has to be a way that we can look at how we can make sure that practicum, which is a major component, an academic requirement in the CMO, is still complied with, and academe should be able to think out of the box, the same manner that industry should be able to accept or negotiate how practicum can be done, achieved as part of the curriculum requirements. Be supporting. It's nice to bring together academe, government, industry together in this platform, and you've heard it from them. There are only best recommendations that can be done, and so we have to make sure that we listen, we take cognizance of the stakeholders that we have, and we have to look at how we can best move forward with this kind of situation. Be patient, especially as we are undergoing a lot of changes in the way that we're offering programs right now. There is no one fit solution for everyone. It has to consider the uniqueness of the environment, the province, the school, the region, and all of this come together to create what is acceptable for all the players in this program. Be industry relevant. I cannot overemphasize this, because what we fail to do is always we think that academe is the holder of all information, but we have to negotiate with industry and find out how we can best work together and get the most out of students who are taking their practicum training with industry. Be tireless. It's not a walk in the park. It's the solutions, the options that are provided today is not the end. It's going to undergo several versions. So we have to make sure that we talk with each other and see how we can get better with this, with the options that we have on hand. BSA and relevant. ASEC RICA provided the framework, the OJT manuals. That was a work in progress. It is now undergoing. It will have to undergo more changes as a result of new COVID protocols. And so we have to make sure that we do that along the way. There is balance. Industry is not the only player here. Academe should also be considered. Students should also be considered. Payments, there are a lot of, what was the number? 49% of people lost their job this year as a result of COVID. And so we've got to be very understanding about this. Be lively. Just because there's pandemic doesn't mean that we have to be sour-faced or anything, but we've got to make sure that we look forward. We have to think that this is moving forward. We have to be part of the transition. I think, as they say, that if there was digital native and digital immigrant before, now there is a COVID native and COVID immigrant, because we have to move past this particular mark that we have. And be empathetic. We have to make sure that we feel also for everyone. They consider the faculty. I was just thinking, what is the role now of faculty vis-a-vis the online practicum or virtual practicum that we're doing? Are they supposed to monitor? Are they supposed to? Maybe this could be also a challenge for those who are providing. Maybe they can undergo, the faculty members can be immersed using this particular platform and see how it goes. And maybe they can give also some feedback. So I have given you the synthesis. I thank all the speakers, 8 speakers plus Beth, who weaved together all the thoughts of these participants. And I'd like to make mention that we would like to invite our participants for the the Philippines is not the only country that's affected by COVID, but it's everyone. But we have to make sure that we welcome them, and we have to make sure that the new classroom, which is actually out there, is actually going to prepare our students for the new workplace that's going to happen. So what would be changes that will happen when our students get to the workplace that they have? I'd also like to take this opportunity to invite our colleagues, our friends who attended this. I believe the number that we had was 740 plus, and I'm very thankful that we were able to reach that. But we're going to be having our next webinar in celebration of the 40 years of TIBFI. This one is Trivial Pursuits in Search of Sanity During the Pandemic for Tourism and Hospitality. We've invited a lot of speakers. We have a nutritionist in the person of Luchi. We have her husband, who is an athlete who is into physical wellness. We also have Miss Maricar is going to talk about emotional and mental wellness. And of course, we should not be able to. We should always focus that there is somebody out there who is arranging everything for us, and this is our spiritual wellness. And Boris is going to talk about that. So the QR code as well as the link for the next webinar on September 10 is actually found on screen. I hope to see you on September 10. We will again be hosted by DOT. We do not know what platform we're using, but this is for it's okay to not be okay. We have several versions. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay. But again, if you go back, that particular K-drama, although it was a K-drama that had a lot of you'd think that it was very light, but there are a lot of lessons that we can get from that particular K-drama. So if you've not watched that, I strongly encourage you to do that. I'd also like to say that it's more fun in the Philippines. It continues to be more fun in the Philippines because we're able to bring together everyone in this particular platform, but exploring options with all of you together, with all the speakers giving their thoughts, reactions, etc., and exploring whatever we have. I hope TIBFI was able to bring together everyone. Good thoughts about this. So I'd like to also make mention that if you need to contact TIBFI, we've indicated our contact details here. We have our website. Actually, the practical manual, you can actually download it in the website. You go to resources and you'll be able to find a soft copy of that and get it for free, and you can use that, revise it for your future needs. I'd also like to thank you, our participants. Without you, this would have been an exercise in futility, but the numbers are very good. We saw a lot of people who are participating with comments, etc. It boosts our morale. It is very encouraging for everyone. So in behalf of the board who have been, we have 3 platforms. We are on Viber, we are on FB Messenger, we are on individual FB Messenger, but technology has managed to put us all together. So again, thank you. I'd like to also give special thanks to Orly and his team, X-Link Events, for putting us together, for being patient in our briefing yesterday. So we did everything very well today. So God bless everyone. Be safe, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.